Keane Buju, Bimshkuja Chichakdishnakas, Makwadodam, Wikwam Kong Donjaba. Ani, good morning or good day. My name is Lynda Trudeau, and I'm here to share with you my story and my journey that I've had with rheumatoid arthritis. Around 1995, I started experiencing some pains. I felt like the muscles in my leg were swollen, and one in particular, this large muscle that goes around, and it would swell up on my thigh and my hip, go around, and it would really hurt. So I would take something like Tylenol or aspirin and wait it out. And then in 1996, I started going to college at Cambrian College. And while I was there, again, the same time of year, it kept swelling up, but it wasn't so much the muscle anymore, but started to become my elbow, my shoulder, my hips, my knees, my feet. And I kept going to the medical clinic that was located in the college. And lucky for me, a doctor there that I was quite familiar with, who used to work on Manitoulin Island, was Dr. Hay. And so Dr. Hay would send me to go to Emerge, and I was diagnosed with bursitis, and I was also diagnosed with other strains and inflammations. And after, I guess, about 3 months of going back and forth to Dr. Hay at Cambrian and Emerge, she finally sent off a test to check my rheumatoid factor. And I got a call about 2 days later after that blood work, and I was told that I had been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and I was going to get a referral to a rheumatologist. And about a week later, I received a call from a rheumatologist office, and I was quickly seen. And those early stages of the interception with the rheumatologist and my disease were several things. A lot of, at the time it was NSAIDs, which is something like acetaminophen or naproxen or aspirin. So I was taking those at the very beginning, and my disease kept progressing. So we started getting into a little bit more aggressive treatment plans, and I started with gold injections, and I would go to Memorial Hospital every week before I came home, and I would get my gold injections and come home and also take the NSAIDs. And that wasn't going very well, and we had to come up with, again, a little bit more aggressive treatment. By this time it was very difficult to walk. It was taking me a long time to get ready each day. I was ready to quit school. I guess over a period of time, the monitoring of the treatment identified just how aggressive the disease was happening. So my rheumatologist made a referral to this company that was doing some new medicine, and I received approval to be a candidate for this new medication, and I was considered a charity case. And so it was the company that was providing this treatment for me. And that treatment was called Enbrel. And what a world of difference. I was able to resume schooling again. I was delayed with my schooling. It was hard. It was hard to contribute to my classmates when we were in group work, just because I just sometimes didn't have the energy or didn't work fast enough. And so I was delayed with graduating. I did graduate. And in that year I had graduated, I had become pregnant. So I no longer used Enbrel, and I didn't take any medication. I had my son, and he was breastfed, so again, no medication was being used. And about 8 months after I had him, the disease started showing signs in my life again, and again was making things very difficult. And by this time I went back to go and resume the medication. I was told I was no longer a candidate and that it was no longer available to me. So my disease had progressed so much that I was primarily in a wheelchair and couldn't hold my baby. And I learned how important it was to be an advocate for yourself. So with the doctor, we advocated to non-insured health benefits because it was very expensive. They didn't want to pay for it. But because we've had the history of demonstrating that the other treatment plans were not responsive and that the disease was so aggressive that resuming Enbrel would be a good thing. So one of the challenges with taking a biologic is that if I have any symptoms of a cold or a virus, I could become very sick. So when I resumed the Enbrel, after having my son, I also lost my rheumatologist. I was referred to another rheumatologist, and so all the paperwork didn't necessarily get transferred, and all I could do was share the same history that I'm sharing with you. And so the new rheumatologist worked with me to try to be more specific in identifying when it is safe to take the injection and when it was not. And I was also noting that having a smaller child that, again, of course, there was a lot more susceptibilities to other viruses that were, helping build his immune system. And so I was really hesitant in taking the biologic as when I was not sure whether it was safe to do so. So by the next year, the non-insured health benefits had said that I wasn't utilizing the medication properly and that the biologic was denied. And then I was referred to a different rheumatologist because my rheumatologist was retiring. And this rheumatologist had taken me on, and we had worked with other treatments, methotrexate and other types of treatment plans, and they weren't helping me. And I ended up with nodules, which is common with methotrexate, but also I really suffered. And so we together advocated for another type of biologic which would not be as expensive. At this time, the patent on Enbrel had expired, so other companies were creating similar biologics. So I was approved for this medication called Brenzies. So I started taking Brenzies, and around the same period of time, my rheumatologist had passed away, and I was referred to a different rheumatologist by a individual that I had met from our community to inquire who they were newly diagnosed, and they shared with me who their rheumatologist was. So I spoke to the family physician here for a referral and found this new rheumatologist. Unfortunately, in 2016, I had developed some severe pneumonia and strep and other host of complications, and a result of all that strain on my body, I had also developed pericarditis, which is fluid is building up around your heart. And I had to go for emergency surgery to alleviate the pericarditis, and I was off work for many months. And at that time I couldn't take the biologic, and again had a host of other complications with, again, the disease being aggressive as it is, just, bleeding havoc on my life again. And so eventually I was approved to again resume the biologic, and here I am at 25 years later. That is a bit of my journey of the medication that I've taken. Some of the impacts of rheumatoid arthritis that it's had on my body is that the joints in my knees have disintegrated, and at a point they were bone on bone, and that there was no more joint in there. So I had to get my knees replaced, a total knee replacement. And I was told at the time that I was the youngest total knee replacement for the doctor, for the surgeon. And I didn't want to do that. I figured I could live with it, and my family doctor here said, I'll make the referral, and you both can decide when you speak to a professional for that field. And I actually didn't really have any choice. He just said, I'm going to schedule you for a total knee replacement surgery. So I went. And when that was done, he said, call me when you're ready for your next knee. And so I waited 3 years before I got that done. So I've had my knees, both of them, totally replaced. And that had, again, provided me with a little bit more of a quality of life than I had previously. Even with the biologics, I was able to walk up and down stairs again. Sometimes I get a little bit inflamed and have to take the stairs one at a time, but that's not very often, not as often as it used to be when I didn't have my knees replaced. I can't kneel down. I don't kneel down, but that's okay. I find other ways to grab stuff off the floor. And I think one of the biggest things in terms of learning how to advocate, I noted other people in my community were getting diagnosed with arthritis, and their treatment plan was to treat the pain and not the disease. And one thing I had learned with my rheumatologist was that we needed to be aggressive with the disease and not the pain, because the pain was a symptom of the disease. And so I didn't take narcotics. None of that stuff was prescribed to me. It was disease management, and I also learned that it's difficult as an Indigenous person, that I couldn't, if non-insured health benefits wasn't going to approve the biologic, the private health insurance wasn't going to approve it until non-insured said that they weren't going to approve it, and they weren't going to approve it until they had enough statistics to say that other treatment plans were acceptable, because it was very expensive. So I felt like I was in limbo in terms of what my rheumatologist was recommending for treatment plans and what the administrators or the medicine chest people were identifying what was a treatment plan without being a medical doctor. So I really had to work with the rheumatologist to try to find ways to get medication approved and to advocate for myself. The other part that a couple of times I've ended up in a merge for different things for my rheumatoid arthritis. Sometimes it was going in for cortisone injections or some minor treatment plans for maybe inflammation was quite high at the time. But at one point too, a doctor had told me that we had spent a lot of time dialoguing about my disease and sharing some of my history. And then as I walked out, he told me that I didn't need to see a rheumatologist, that I could just come and see him. And so just making sure that you're presented with a lot of options and to make the best choice for you and for your disease. I did not switch rheumatologists and go to a physician only. I still maintain a relationship with my rheumatologist. I kind of enjoyed the COVID impacts because I could just speak to my rheumatologist on the phone and I could share things, and we did follow-ups that way. And after several years, I will be seeing him next month. So this is my 25-year journey with rheumatoid arthritis. Thank you for listening. Miigwech.